everybody. Evan Manship here with Mainstay Property Group, Midwest Cash Offer and the Manship Foundation in beautiful southern Broad Ripple, Indianapolis. Joined by a close friend of mine, Travis Carpenter with Carp Homes here in Indianapolis. Really neat story about stepping away, starting his own thing, and here to talk to you about how he got started. Travis, tell the people what they need to hear.
Very nice. Thank you, Evan, so much for having me. Appreciate it. So I got started in real estate because I was actually recruited by another company, and so I worked for Ben Buys Indie Houses for several years. So I was working at, what's funny is I had no intention in real estate whatsoever in the beginning. So like I went to school at Indiana Wesleyan for recreation management. So I wanted to.
What is that actually? Like,
Yep, fair question.
Rec plays basketball for a living.
Yeah, right. Rec management would be like a job where you're running, a sports complex or a gym or
nice, okay.
A camp, things of that nature. So I had a lot of classes, based around that, based around leadership and around things in physical fitness or just, kind of like your stuff that's after work, that everyone enjoys. I've always been into physical fitness. I've always been an athlete, so that kind of felt like a natural fit for me.
Sure.
And for the first couple of years out of college, it went great. I enjoyed it very much. And at the time that I got recruited, I was managing the LA Fitness in the Broad Ripple area. So I was just sitting at my desk, and Ben approached me one day and said, "Hey, I've been watching you work. I think you're a good professional person. I think you'd be a good fit for my company." And once I started hearing more about what real estate could offer, then there was really no looking back after that. So that's really
cool
my origin.
Well, it's if you wouldn't mind rewinding a little bit. I know you talked about your background in the Ben thing, LA Fitness, but was that the first time that you kind of heard about investing in real estate? Was sitting there at the front desk of this LA Fitness?
100%.
No kidding.
Yeah, had no prior experience to it. No one in my family was really doing it, at least not my close family. I didn't really have any friends that were doing it. Yeah, so I had zero connection to real estate investment.
That's wild, because I feel like it's either one of the opposite ends of the spectrum all the way around. Either never done it before in your life, or parents been doing this since dirt was clean.
Yep.
So it's interesting that you and I share that in common. How old were you, if you don't mind sharing that info, when Ben kind of knocked on your door and said, "Try this out"?
I believe I was 25.
Okay.
24, 25.
Okay.
So at that point, by the time I got that job at LA Fitness, I felt like I had stepped into my first true career job.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, out of college, I had a couple jobs that were more like place fillers and kind of stepping stones.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first real career job where I had a full staff under me like I had originally intended, and could see a corporate ladder and everything that I could track that I could follow. So yeah, that was my first time getting a job like that, and I kind of felt like, okay, I'm on the right progression. A couple years out of college, I landed this job. I got a track, good to go.
Right.
And so then once real estate started, it was just so funny how this whole concept of the corporate ladder and your typical Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, W-2, just kind of went out the window, and got this opportunity for learning about the world of real estate investment.
So walk the folks that don't know Travis. Travis is one of those faces that you used to see all the time on many of these Facebook posts, marketing solicitations, marketing blasts, emails, whatever. Walk the folks through what you did for Ben's group and what you got good at real quickly.
Sure. I was the dispositions manager for Ben's company. My official title was client success manager. So I was the one selling all the properties for Ben Buys Indie Houses, and the sales side is Invest with Ben. So yeah, basically my job was to take all the properties from acquisitions, do some underwriting on them, try to figure out what sort of returns and things that a flipper or rental owner could expect, and then market that out to a list of buyers, and then lock in a buyer, get it to the closing table. I would say my skills that I already had going into that job that just continued and were very helpful were I've always been good with people. So it was important to make connections with people, because people that are buying from you are making a pretty high level decision, and they're trusting you with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if they're going to come to you and say, yes, I'll buy this from you for $200,000, they want to know that they're working with someone honest, someone that they can trust, and someone that's going to, just someone that they're going to like, honestly. And so I just think I did a good job at interacting with the people and the buyers, and I feel as though most, if not all, the buyers just liked me in that position, and I thoroughly enjoyed interacting with people through that job. I would say probably some things that I picked up on quickly that I didn't have before. Number one was just deal analysis. I feel as though I'm very, very good at estimating what a property is going to be worth once you're done renovating it, and I very quickly got good at estimating repairs. Being able to pay attention to those little details as you walk through a house or as you're looking at pictures, and being able to tell truly what is this house going to need, and then let's be realistic and not emotional about what is this house actually going to sell for, or what is it going to rent for, how long is it going to
Realistic
take.
and not emotional, folks. Realistic, not emotional. Bold, highlight, fluorescent. Caleb put it up there. That's the toughest thing to do in real estate, especially with the buyer investor folks. Realistic, not emotional. I'm sorry to steal your thunder. That is so refreshing to hear. You have no idea.
Absolutely, I know. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with somebody where, they would call me and they'd be like, well, I want to make this offer, but what do you think? Should I change it to this? Should I ramp it up? I really want to be competitive, and my response is, your concern should not be to be competitive with others. You shouldn't be in this mindset of, I just really want to beat somebody to beat somebody. You should be running.
Sounds like a great way to run into trouble.
Yeah, exactly. You should be running your own numbers. You should be following your own investment strategy and offering, what that you can make successful on the back end. And so I think I did a good job at looking at properties that way and not getting a deal and being like, oh, just because we own it and just because I really want to sell it, I'm going to get swept away and all the, grandiose possibilities and trying to get a little too creative. I could just look at a deal and, look at the cold hard facts and be like, okay, this is what it's going to take. This is what you're going to get for it. And most of the time my numbers were pretty spot on. I think I followed up with many buyers afterwards just to see, okay, am I actually hitting these? At the time, I'm not the one flipping them, so I want to make sure that these projections I'm throwing out are realistic. And most of the time, almost every single time I would speak to a buyer, they would tell me, yeah, I pretty much sold it either at what you said or you were conservative, and I sold it higher, and I was so happy with it because I made $20,000 more than what you said,
Right.
And then same, on the rehab side. And so I just thoroughly enjoyed that part. I think probably the other part I just got good at quickly was the specific rehab and construction side of it. Part of that definitely.
That's killer to be able to jump in and especially do that quickly, man. I think maybe that's how you transition into your own thing now, but that's a neat thing to hear.
Yeah, I think that's a missing piece for a lot of people because
yeah.
I think the people that are naturally good at it or maybe that get good at it right away, they a lot of times have a background in some sort of hands-on blue-collar type of job,
Yep.
Some form of construction. I didn't have that, but I think part of the reason I was good at it is because not only just the realism that I was using, like I told you, but definitely a big help from my dad as well. My dad was very much blue-collar jobs, hands-on, super handy, could fix and do. He could build a house from the ground up if he really wanted to. He would never quite do that. He always wants to do parts.
That's the equivalent of flying to the moon from here, how cell phones work. I can't comprehend making
I
that
know.
happen.
I know.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from him. And then I definitely went out of my way to study that subject and to learn. I had to be proactive about learning that for myself because no one really in our company had that sort of knowledge. Ben certainly helped me with quite a bit of it from what he knew, but he also didn't have that sort of background. So I kind of had to go out and I had to start speaking to contractors. I had to read articles. I had to I asked a lot of buyers for their scope of work, and I would compare them against each other to find the industry averages on how much is drywall costing,
Smart.
how much is paint per square foot costing, things of that nature. And so I kind of was proactive about learning that stuff on my own, and now I feel as though, I'm not sure I would use the word expert, but I do feel as though I'm knowledgeable enough in it. I can speak very confidently on the subject and actually professionally advise other people when it comes to construction and renovation budgets.
Well, I'd say so, and especially given the fact that you've stepped away so much so that you've bet on yourself to the point where you've withdrawn from Ben's group and now pursuing your own venture.
Yeah.
Obviously there has to be a tremendous amount of confidence in your ability to do that, to roll the dice and to provide for your family and doing just that. So talk to me about that, what that decision was like, and obviously you had a tremendous amount of success with Ben's group. Transitioning into you doing your own thing. Talk to me what made that decision and how's it been going so far?
So it was a very, very tough decision. I was with Ben for almost 6 years. So that's a pretty long time to hold just about any job. And for me, the only other job I had held that long was Domino's all through high school and college.
Nice.
I worked with them for 6 years.
Slinging pizzas?
Yeah, that's right.
My man.
Yeah, that's right. So that was, that was a long time, to be in a job, and especially it felt even longer at times because of the fact that I started when the company was younger and newer. So when I joined, there was only one part-time employee and then one other full-time employee. So there was a total of 4 of us, and really 3 of us in there, 9 to 5, and so that was, I got a lot of face time with Ben. I got to wear a lot of different hats, which was stressful at times and difficult, but I have nothing but gratitude for that because it's made me such a better investor to be kind of forced into every different side of the business at some point. But it was really tough because of the relationships that I had built there and the security of it. It was I was definitely having success. I was good at the job. The money was good, and the company just kept growing, kept doing better. So being a part of the growth of the company for 6 years was awesome. But then knowing that it was still going up, made it tougher to leave. But what really led to that decision was the fact that I started flipping houses on the side. So that was an opportunity that Ben allowed the employees, was to do your own investing on the side. And he even did some things to help support that as well. That's because he wanted everyone to have that sort of entrepreneurial type of mindset and that sort of control your own destiny, kind of mindset. So as I started doing that on the side, it really was just kind of like a steady ladder, I would say. It was like just every house I did just got better and better and better, either by price point, or maybe I got closer on the budget, or maybe I got a better, I found a new and better contractor to work with, or maybe I hit my numbers better than ever. Just it seemed like something just kept improving while maintaining all this good stuff that happened on the last project. Something else would go even better on the next one, and it just felt like every project kept getting better. And then it started to get to the point where I felt as though I had the capacity, money, and knowledge to start doing 2 at once. So I started my final year working with Ben. I had a point where I was having overlapping houses where I'd have 2 projects going at once, and it was getting pretty difficult to balance both, to do my normal job and that.
Right.
So that was getting a little bit tough, and so I kind of had to decide, like, okay, well, I could delegate some of this to other people, maybe on my side projects, and give up some of the profit by having other people help me. That'd be one option. I could just go back to doing one at a time. Or, maybe I go after this, full bore and, really attack it and see if I can, make my whole career out of this. So I started running some numbers, some projections on knowing the capital that I had to work with, knowing the rate at which I could buy properties, knowing how long it was taking them to turn over, and then factoring in, my net profits and what my income would look like at the end of the year. Started running all those projections to see, like, is this realistic? Is this doable? And I quickly found that, yes, it is. Like, I have a track record now, and I've done this enough times that there's no reason why I can't do this just at double the pace if I free up my every day to my own time. Exactly. And so that's really what gave me the confidence to step away. And I'll say that when I did make that decision, the whole company was very supportive and very kind about it, and very understanding about, that I need to do what's best for me, and that, that doesn't mean that, the world's gonna stop spinning and the company's not gonna go on. It just means, next person up. And let's Travis is gonna go. Okay, that's all right. Let's figure out how to work with this, and how the company's gonna continue on, and that way Travis can continue on and do what's best for him and his family. So it really couldn't have been better.
Well, it's cool to hear, and especially, you're one of the most kind, gracious, and frankly smart people I've known. This isn't just because he's sitting here. I didn't mean it. Coming from someone who's offered on the properties at Travis Market, only be told, pound sand, you greedy investor, don't lowball me. Been there many times, trust me. So smart, obviously knows his stuff, but humble enough to say, hey, I need to do what's best for me. And I think that's one of the biggest nuggets from just talking to you is, if I could shove words in your mouth, it seems like you took a lot of the things that you learned on the day-to-day that you're getting paid and paid well for, to go through and say, hey, I can really contribute to this long-term to not only my income, but my retirement, my future children, my whatever it is, that thing. And that's something we share with our folks just the same way. Like, again, I love the medical profession. We hire a lot of folks in the logistics side of things, but it's really tough to take freight brokerage and apply that to your retirement.
Mm,
Tough
yeah.
to take how to I don't know, perform CPR and apply that to retirement. God
Right.
bless the nurses and doctors watching this. But what we can do every second of every day is learn something new about real estate, learn something new about an asset class like the business we've both chosen to be in, and directly apply that to compounding wealth over a considerable period of time. And it's neat to see someone say, look, I've learned enough, I've done my thing, I'm going to bet on myself and make it happen. So I absolutely love that. And congratulations, man. It takes ironclad balls to go through and to do something like that. So cheers to you.
Thank you.
Secondly, I think something I wanted to hone in on too is we've talked a handful of times during this piece about finding your superpower. What are you really, really good at? What are you dialing in at? What can you double down, triple down on? And something I think you've highlighted is not necessarily just that, but also find what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I neglect that to a huge degree sometimes, what we're bad at, what we are terrible at, is internally or me personally. And don't do that. Do the opposite. Try, to get somebody else on that. You said you were thinking about maybe having an interview later today for some administrative things. Man, like just doubling down, tripling down. Look, I don't want any damn part of construction. Let's figure out someone that knows what the hell's going on with construction. Goes a long way. So I think those are tremendous nuggets, and I think it's neat for someone who's been doing this for 10 years now? 8 years?
No, I'm up to about 6.5.
6.5 years. I mean, to realize it that quickly, I think is impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So what's next? Where is Carp Homes going? Maybe talk about the future, and if you had to talk to yourself 6.5 years ago, what would you say and why? Bring it full circle for us, folks.
Sure. I'll start with the past. I'll say that if I could go back in time, have a conversation with myself 6.5 years ago, honestly, I don't think I would really change much. I think I would just tell myself to be confident in the decision I made to move into real estate. I was definitely very weary at first, and I would say that Ben and I spent probably 4 months speaking and interviewing and stuff, and he was like really trying to convince me to come on board. I was so nervous about this concept of let's leave this steady paycheck, this typical corporate job that you learn to go out and get in school, and let's go into a job that is commission and that is based on sales and based on performance. That was just like a whole new world to me, and so it took a long time, a lot of convincing. And so even during that first year, I feel as though there were times that I still wasn't almost like 100% mentally committed. I was still kind of watching for a potential way out or worried about needing to backtrack. And I actually had like a mentor, a professional mentor outside of my job at the time, and he had some background in real estate investment, and him and I partnered on renovating and buying a house that I was going to live in. It was kind of this creative financing thing that him and I did together, that gave me experience in flipping a house with a mentor, while him getting benefit out of it, of having like a helper through the whole thing, as well as a buyer already committed before the project even started.
Yep.
So it was just kind of this really cool win-win. And I mean, frankly, he definitely did more for me, of course, than I did for him. Like he was
mentor.
that's a mentor. That's right. He was awesome. But he was definitely encouraging me and pushing me, and I still think even through the project that I did with him, I was nervous during all of it, and I could have attacked it harder. So I don't know. I guess I'd maybe just tell myself just like really let it rip that first year, just go after it even harder than I did. I would say the passion didn't develop until like year 2.
Probably about the same time money started to develop would be my thought.
That surely had an effect. That's most definitely true.
That's fine.
So if we're talking like right now, I'll go Carp Homes. Right now, I'm really focused on trying to buy a very even distribution of buy and hold properties to increase my rental portfolio and fix and flips. When you're just fixing and flipping, taxes just eat you alive. And so I found that I can majorly control taxes, and I can get those under control if I do have rentals at the same time.
Yep.
I also want to retire early. That's an end goal for me. I don't want to be working full time until 65 to 70. So I want to have enough passive income built up that if I want to retire at 50, 55, I can. or even if I want to dial it back to part-time, I can just have that control to decide how much I want to work at an earlier age.
Love that.
So that's kind of the goal right now, is to build up the rental portfolio. Frankly, I don't have a goal in mind. A lot of people ask me, like, how many rentals are you trying to get? I really don't have a number.
More.
Yeah, I think at this point the answer is just more. That's right. That's a really good way to put it. And then for flips, I'm trying to average right now somewhere around 10 to 15 per year. And then, so that means ideally I'm trying to flip 10 properties a year, let's say, and acquire 10 new rentals every year. That's kind of my goal right now. A really big like piece of that puzzle that makes it really difficult is finding and keeping good contractors. That's probably the most difficult part of the puzzle to real estate investment, if I had to pick one. And that's most often the feedback that I hear from other people as well. Over the years, I've had to fire a ridiculous amount of contractors.
I can only imagine. Bro's got stories I can imagine. So.
Yeah, that's right. And I finally landed on some good ones. I had to really sort through the weeds. I had to pick through the weeds until I finally found some really good contractors that I really like them both professionally and personally. And so now my goal is to keep them busy at all times. And I've found that if I keep that as my number one goal, the other things kind of fall into place.
Amen.
So now my job is, I try to think of their needs before mine. I try to think of like, okay, these guys are about to finish up a project in a week. I don't want them to be sitting for 2 weeks without a paycheck.
Right.
Let's quickly go find another property. Let's go find another situation, something I can get them moving on so that they're ready to go. And if I do that and I treat them well, then everything else, like I said, kind of falls into place. My other goals are kind of naturally met.
That's gold.
Yeah,
That's gold.
you.
I think one of the things that we continue to hear on this non-podcast, which is brick by brick, everyone's got their own specialty with wholesaling and flipping and buying wholes and Airbnbs, whatever else. Every single person's got scars. Every single person's been punched in the face 100 times, 200 times, 500 times. But every single time, there's something we learn from it. And that applies all over the place, whether it's a real estate business or a used car business or a baking cookies business, I can imagine. But, man, like, that shows resiliency and shows that you're probably ready for entrepreneurship to some degree or ownership in something to some degree. So congrats on getting back up for the 501st time.
Thank you.
Big deal. And for a lot of folks watching that, that's my biggest piece of encouragement, just the same way from every guest who sat in this chair said the exact same thing. I got my ass kicked, and here I am. So we're still here smiling and laughing and talking about it. Similarly, something I want to point out, too, is from someone who's in mid-30s, Travis,
That's turned 31.
Early 30s. We've had the luxury of spending a lot of our professional career in this. So those of you watching this that are 40s, 50s, 60s, obviously we can still make this happen. There's still plenty of time to be an entrepreneur. But, man, if you're in your 20s, you got Gary Vee says this all the time. You get all the fucking time in the world. Like, you are so young. You get so much time and nothing to screw up. So go and screw up. Roll the dice, get your ass kicked, and by the time you're 31, you got it all figured out and you can make this thing happen. So, Travis, any last-minute feedback you want to give to anybody before you ride off into the sunset and go start your own Monopoly board?
I would just say, you just have to be ready and willing for some ups and downs. And I think, I just think anyone that's trying to get into it really has to be prepared to be patient. I think that finding the right property for you can take some time. That can be kind of difficult, and you may have to visit 20 properties. You may have to put in 20 offers. You may have to have 20 sit-down talks with contractors before you find one you like. I mean, that stuff doesn't just happen instantly. There isn't, you'll get your task list once people do their own research and stuff. You'll know what all the steps are that you have to accomplish. Just know that it's going to take some time to put each of those pieces into place, and just be willing. Don't get frustrated because it doesn't come to you right away. It does take some time, and then there's going to be some trial and error, as we were just saying. There's going to be some projects that don't go so hot. There's going to be some, maybe some professional relationships that don't turn out the way you thought they would, and things of that nature. And so you just kind of have to be patient, conservative, and be prepared for things not to go perfectly as you're learning and as you're growing and getting into it, and just be ready to overcome that, because if you let one of those first few hiccups, few obstacles knock you down, then you're done. Your chances, you're not going to have any more chances if you just give up after that. And so you just have to be prepared for some of that stuff to happen and just be patient, because I promise you that if you're a smart person and you're going to work hard at it and you're willing to be patient, you will have success in real estate investment, regardless of if you're doing what I'm doing or if you're going to be an Airbnb specialist, you're going to be a wholesaler. As long as you have those qualities, and you stick true to being patient and working hard and being ready for trial and error, I think you're going to be successful.
So a super smart guy we both know, I'm not going to say his name, said sometimes you get money, sometimes you get experience, sometimes you get wounds, and sometimes you get wounds that get infected. Sometimes you get all four. So be prepared for the whole spectrum, and you can't be surprised at that point.